While I grew up in a nearby neighborhood, the Forest Del Sur community was just being built when I lived in San Diego prior to going to Orange County for college. I experience Forest Del Sur now as a public school employee in the neighborhood. I drew my research map through the lens of my commute to school. Making this commute every workday for 3 years has in many ways desensitized me to the local landmarks and places of interest. This activity reminded me to consider the places of value to me and the community that I work in. One of the quotes that stood out to me in the reading this week was, "Teachers are beginning to understand that they cannot transform their classrooms without the insights gained through in-depth knowledge of students' and families' lives." Relationships have always been at the center of my teaching philosophy, but reflecting on my beliefs and biases as an educator is becoming equally important. I want my students and families to feel valued and celebrated in all circumstances. Understanding the community is a great way to gain in-depth knowledge of students and families. On my commute to work, one of the first things I notice is a right turn that would take me to my second job, Forward Bar and Fitness. This is something important to me, as after school I teach bar and fitness classes as a way to relieve stress and practice health and wellness. We are not quite in the Forest Del Sur neighborhood yet, and for the past few months I've noticed that the roads off the freeway into Forest Del Sur have been covered with potholes and steel plates. What I thought was interesting about this was that as soon as the sign for 4S appears on the left of the road, the streets smooth out and the steel plates end, and there are no more construction cones. Upon entering 4S, the homes are new. There are shopping centers and gyms and recently built schools. I pass by the road that leads to my childhood neighborhood and childhood home. It reminds me of my experience growing up and how the new Forest Del Sur neighborhood was just being built. This is my something meaningful. Building community and socializing is an important part of this neighborhood. There is evidence of this in the shopping centers that are built. There are shops and grocery stores, but there are also restaurants, wine bars, breweries, and communal places to gather. I mark these on my community research map as well. These centers are also the something I like. Places like these connect me to my colleagues and my community. We might go out to dinner after a staff meeting or to happy hour on a Friday afternoon, and it's common to see parents and students at these locations. It's a refreshing change to experience students and their families in a more natural setting at these places. Through the new neighborhoods and shopping centers are the schools. Built to be aesthetically pleasing, these are beautiful schools part of the Poway Unified School District. Many families seek out homes in the district boundaries to attend these schools. When I think about what families and students are proud of, I think of the schools. They are situated in the neighborhoods among homes. Families pay taxes on their homes to fund the schools, and schools host community markets and events outside of the school day to build camaraderie and relationships and to make families feel welcome. The neighborhood is characterized by new building. The streets are sprinkled with signs for new models. Townhomes, gated communities, and attached condos are constantly being built and added to. The demand is rising along with the cost of homes and new families moving to the area. One aspect of the community that I do not like are the gated communities. To me, gated communities signal a desire to keep others out. It feels elitist and segregating. Existing in these neighborhoods are million-dollar mansions side by side with low-income housing communities a block away. Driving through the neighborhood presents a stark contrast between the two housing options. The average household income in Forest Del Sur is $143,647, with an average household net worth of $996,911. Specific down to the single dollar. This confirms that families in Forest Del Sur make comfortable livings. These families can afford nice homes. The median listing price for homes is just shy of $800,000. The median selling price of homes is closer to $900,000. Driving through the neighborhood, I saw signs advertising homes through the range of high $600,000 to high $3 million. Many of the residents have acquired high levels of education, with 39% of the population having obtained a bachelor's degree and 26% of the population having earned a graduate degree. Across the street from our school site in either direction are two low-income housing communities. These were recently built, and I found myself questioning whether they were actually low-income housing units as I was completing this assignment. This train of thought and research helped me confront some of the stereotypes that I hold and help me reflect on some of my biases, as well as think about what biases and stereotypes my students might have. When I think of low-income housing, I think of run-down and dilapidated units. This negative and untrue prejudice does not come from much experience working with low-income students or working in low-income communities, but is a belief that I somehow acquired and unknowingly believed. This made me wonder what my students, who do come from affluent families, believe about poverty and families with low incomes. The majority of the students at my site do have economic privilege, and with that privilege often comes a level of ignorance. Part of the work that we do at Design 39 is to make students more globally aware. We've worked to support hurricane victims and raise money for adoptive family during the holidays, but we have very little opportunity to interact with people who live in different economic situations and hear their stories. Students in Forest Del Sur are proud of where they live. They boast about living in these neighborhoods, have pride in the schools they go to, and take advantage of the community they live in. While we practice empathy for economic differences and poverty, I wonder how much students really know about it. More specifically, I wonder how I can work to ensure that we eliminate a deficit mindset and a negative belief like the one I absorbed growing up in a similar environment to my students now. The way in which educators teach in the classroom is affected by the assumptions they make about their students. Our interactions in the classroom are also characterized by the assumptions our students have about each other and different living situations. It is important to be aware of both. The deficit theory is built on negative and untrue stereotypes that say poor people are poor because of their own moral and intellectual deficiencies. In many cases, we ignore systemic conditions that support cycle of poverty, like lack of access to healthcare, living wage jobs, safe and affordable housing, and clean air and water. It is absolutely essential that we confront these beliefs first as educators. There are opportunities in the curriculum with students to explore other cultures and learn more about what they value. I believe one of the best things we can do for ourselves and our students is to work to broaden our perspectives, listen to everyone's story, and look for the best in each other. This translates directly to our work in the classroom. Whether we are aware of it or not, our assumptions and beliefs permeate the teaching we do. Especially when working with such young and malleable minds, it is essential that we are aware of how our words and actions impact others. We must reflect on our beliefs and confront the negative ones to promote positive change. This project doubled as a chance for me to understand the community I work in, but also to think about my upbringing in a similar community. The neighborhood I grew up in is just minutes away from the area I now teach in. While this gives me insight into the lives of my students, it might also mean that I am unknowingly perpetuating stereotypes and prejudices. Becoming more aware of my own beliefs can help me change that and eliminate deficit mindset in my classroom. I love the idea of having students complete their own reality tour and a photo album of their community. Not only would this help build empathy and trust in the classroom, it would also promote a positive perspective regardless of if a student lived in a gated community or in low-income housing.